DPM Hsien, Permsec Yong Ying Yi, Chairman of Civil Service College, Mr. Wong Hong Kwan, Director of CPIB, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here today for the Public Sector Public Service Values Conference. And I'd like to thank the Civil Service College and CPIB for putting together this conference and bringing you here together to share with one another. This year we're celebrating SG50. It's a 50-year journey which has taken us as a people and taken Singapore from third world to first. And the public service has played a very important role in this journey because you've worked hand in hand with the political leadership and with the people of Singapore. You've served as able stewards for Singapore, helped to design and implement bold policies and improve the lives of our people. We've housed 80% of our population in housing board flats. We've built a world-class education system. We've created many good jobs for Singaporeans. Lives have changed. This success was the result of effort from public service officers, past and present, at all levels. Frontline officers, SAF servicemen, home team officers who kept Singapore safe. Teachers who nurtured our children. Healthcare workers who took care of us when we were ill. Procurement officers, HR partners, and support staff who make our organization tick quietly behind the scenes. Policy makers who help the leadership make the best decisions for Singapore. Each of you has different roles, different talents, but all of you work together in the public service to serve Singapore and to serve Singaporeans. And so I'm very glad today that we have many officers from many different agencies holding different responsibilities at all levels come together for this seminar. One principal reason why the public service has been able to do good for Singapore is because you have enjoyed trust from Singaporeans. We trust the public service to carry out your duties capably and competently. And we trust the public service to act with integrity, always in the public interest. This trust that Singaporeans have in the public service as an institution and in each one of you individually as public servants is crucial. Because you're making important decisions that affect many people's lives. If you're making policy that affects many lives at once. If you're frontline dealing with people face to face, you're affecting somebody each time you interact with him. You're managing projects which together cost billions of dollars. And the public has to be confident that public officers are acting fairly and impartially, dealing with everyone, as the term goes, without fear or favor, without affection or ill will. So, because you have such important responsibilities, the public must be able to trust you. Trust you on what? Trust you that your heart is in the right place. Trust you that you are working not for personal gain, but for national interest. Trust you that you can and you will do your job well. Therefore, because people trust you, you have a duty and a responsibility to do your best to safeguard that public trust. And if any of you does something wrong and breaches that trust, you are not only letting down the public service or yourself, but you're also letting Singaporeans down. And you can do a lot of damage. We watch Singapore's rankings internationally on corruption, on transparency, on the quality of government very closely. Because how others assess us and our performance has a very important influence whether they are confident in Singapore, whether they are ready and prepared to invest here, whether they have respect for you and me, for Singaporeans. and in fact, whether we can hold our head high in the world. So, whether it is the World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Index, which also measures corruption amongst other things, or the Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index, we track it year by year, we report it, and we bring Singaporeans' attention to it. And overall, we have done well, usually among the top few in the world, and in Asia, the top 1 or 2, and usually by a long way. But because we are ranking up there, it also means that expectations of us are very high. This year, in the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index, we dropped 2 positions from 5th place to 7th place. And, well, you cannot know why people change their perceptions because this is based on a survey, but we can guess and surmise that it could have something to do and must have something to do with the high-profile cases that we have seen in the last couple of years. A head of department charged with exchanging sexual favors for favoring tender awards. Even a case in CPIB itself, where a branch head misappropriated funds under his charge. These cases hurt our reputation. They hurt our reputation with Singaporeans. They hurt our reputations internationally. So we've got to continue to do better and not let Singapore's image be damaged, because that would be a disservice to the many exemplary officers we have. Officers who quietly do their duty, are exposed to temptation, but say no and report it and do the right thing. Officers like Sergeant Goh Wee Kian or Sergeant Tan Kai Siang from Police CID, who are patrolling in Geylang, which is a complicated environment, and they came across a woman who was suspected of vice activities, and the woman offered them a bribe, but they chose to do what was right. They rejected the bribe offers, they arrested the woman, both for vice and one extra offense, one more charge, attempting to bribe police officers. Or Sergeant Samuel Anandaraj Anthony Raj, an SCDF officer. He came across a traffic accident at Serangoon Road, found the driver was drunk, and he stopped the drunk driver from fleeing the scene of the crime. The driver offered him $1,000 not to tell the police. He rejected the bribe, told the police, and the offender was subsequently jailed. I just spoke to Sergeant Samuel just now. I said it's not SCDF's job to look for drunken drivers. He said once in a lifetime. So this is once in a lifetime for Sergeant Samuel, but for us all is a standard which we must live by. Overall, Singapore's system is clean. We maintain high standards, but we must keep working at them, because the problem of corruption will never disappear completely. It comes from human frailty. The temptation will always be there, and from time to time, somebody will succumb out of weakness or out of greed. And that's why corruption is a problem in so many countries. In the developed countries, even the United States, I mean, if you read the news, if you follow the news recently, you'll have noticed that one senior politician, an ex-governor of Virginia, Robert McDonnell, was charged with illegally accepting gifts from a businessman who sought special treatment. Businessman was also friends with his wife. But he was convicted and jailed. And he is not the first governor to go to jail in America. In emerging economies like China, it's also a very serious problem. The Chinese used to uphold a Maoist ideal, 为人民服务, service to the people, completely self-sacrificing. I take nothing. You leave 5 cents in your hotel room by accident, they will chase you down and give it back to you. But that was never the whole story. And over the last few decades, with the wealth created from the reforms and the opening up, corruption has become a very serious problem for the Chinese. And under President Xi Jinping, China has made anti-corruption a top priority. Because President Xi knows that fixing this and strengthening trust in the Chinese Communist Party and in the Chinese government is vital to his government's legitimacy and to be able to run China and keep it stable. It can cause major upheavals. So he's been going after high-profile targets in a very determined way, and even in his New Year message, he spent a big part of his message talking about how important it was to continue to pursue anti-corruption. That's China, that's America. In our own region, Southeast Asia, corruption is endemic. And it's a cancer in so many countries. It's obvious to travelers, to investors, to anyone who does business. It goes by different names. Sometimes people talk about money politics. Sometimes people talk about KKN. Corruption, collusion, and nepotism. I don't have to give you examples. You can see them in the newspapers, or if you travel, you may well come across some of them yourself. It happens. But fortunately, in such a complicated world, Singapore is a shining exception. But never take this for granted. Not only must we uphold our high standards, which already takes unremitting effort, but we must enhance them. Maintain our zero tolerance on corruption, regardless of the rank or seniority of the officers who may be involved. As the Chinese say, you must go after the tigers and also the flies. Never let corruption take hold here, because once it takes root, it will be very difficult to weed out. So remember this level of trust that we enjoy, that the Singapore Public Service enjoys, and this degree of cleanliness and integrity in the public service is the most unnatural state of affairs. So when corruption cases do come up, don't be demoralized. Punish the culprits, remedy the weaknesses, but work doubly hard to strengthen the trust that you have earned. Today I'd like to talk about three aspects of this problem. One, exercise strong leadership at all levels. Two, emphasize integrity as a value which all of us must uphold. And three, strengthen our system so that we have incentives to keep it clean and systems to detect things when they go wrong. So first of all, the leadership must set the tone and continue to set the tone from the top all the way down and act with integrity. The PAP started this way. In 1959, Singapore gained self-government and general elections were held. That was when the PAP first came into power. But before the general elections, the PAP had to make a very serious decision. Does it compete to gain power and to form the government, or does it compete to win short of forming a government and be a strong opposition? If you compete to form the government, you inherit all the problems which a government will have. Unemployment, housing, misery, education, the whole lot. Plus the political problem of dealing with the communists within the PAP. So why not let somebody else solve all those problems first? But if you had let somebody else solve all those problems first, and they had let the civil service go corrupt, which the British had kept mostly clean, the PAP was very concerned, the leaders, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, Dr. Goh, Kenny Byrne, Raja, and so on, very concerned that once the civil service has gone corrupt, it's a cancer. You cannot root it out again. It's finished. So they decided to contest to win, to form the government. And they won, formed the government, and ever since we've kept the system clean and non-corrupt, now for more than 50 years. We've selected leaders who are honest and not corrupt. We've subjected ourselves to the laws of the land. There's no different set of rules for party members or for civil servants. We're all subject to the laws of Singapore. And when wrongdoing is found, we do not hesitate to act. From time to time, we've had ministers who have got into trouble. From time to time, we've had cases which embarrass the government. We have to act. So, to keep this public service clean, we expect the same standard not only of ministers, but of public service leaders at all levels. To abide by high standards yourselves, to ensure that your subordinates maintain equally high standards of conduct, and run a tight and disciplined outfit. And when people stray, pull them back, put them right, and if necessary, report them, and punishment has to follow. And whether you are a police sergeant walking the ground in Geylang, a staff officer evaluating or administering a big tender, or the CEO of a stat board recommending which of different technologies the government should go for, you must make it your duty, do your utmost to ensure that the system is clean, down the line and up the line, and report any wrongdoing that you come across without fear or favor. So the first thing is there must be strong leadership in this. Secondly, we have to continue to emphasize integrity as a key public service value, which means that every public officer must understand what integrity means. That as public officers, you steward public resources, you shoulder a heavy responsibility, and you must always act in the national interest and not for your personal advantage. And you have to act on this understanding. Be prepared to take personal responsibility, be accountable to Singaporeans, and don't make excuses for wrong actions or shirk responsibility to put things right. You have to believe in these values. Believe, be convinced that it's your duty to do the right thing and to serve Singaporeans. In fact, integrity is not just a public service value, but is one which has been firmly ingrained in Singapore society. So whether it's a public sector organization or whether it's a private sector organization or something in between like town councils, we expect the same standards of integrity and honesty. And Singaporeans know this. So very few Singaporeans will consider offering a bribe to get something done or to get off the hook because they know it'll get them into more serious trouble. And Singaporeans go one step further and do not hesitate to report wrongdoing. In fact, many corruption investigations, including cases from the private sector, start with tip-offs from members of the public or from colleagues in the organization who see something wrong and feel duty-bound to report it. And this is the real achievement for us in Singapore, that these values have taken root in our society and we've created an anti-corruption culture in Singapore. So the second thing we must do is to entrench integrity as a value in the civil service. Thirdly, we must have a robust system in the civil service. A system that polices the high standards we've set. A system that deters the wrongdoing by taking offenders to justice and reliably with a high chance of catching you. A system which trusts our officers and backs them up in their work, but also makes periodic checks to verify and make sure that if something is wrong, we will find out. The CPIB plays a major role in this because it enforces anti-corruption laws impartially and vigorously. It investigates the cases thoroughly, it brings offenders to justice, and it served us well over the years, kept Singapore clean, preserved our high reputation abroad, and is one of the initials in Singapore which is famous not only in Singapore. When you say CPIB, they know what you're talking about. They may not know what is inside the CPIB, but they don't really want to find out, which is the way it should be. This owes a great deal to CPIB officers past and present. directors and officers who work quietly behind the scenes to keep our system clean, like Evan Yeo, who was the former director, and I had one dealing with him. One year when I was in defense, I was the second minister there, we unexpectedly came across a case of corruption involving an arms deal. This was back in 1987, so 38 years ago. And it involved the head of a company which was jointly owned by MINDEF. We discovered this one afternoon. I went to see the minister, Mr. Goh Chok Tong. We settled it, I cleared the matter with him. It was about 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. We called Evan Yeo, spoke to him. By 9 o'clock, he had mounted a raid on the suspect's home, seized the evidence, and eventually we convicted the man in court. He went to jail. He did not stand around. He did not spend a few days wondering what to do. He knew what he needed to do. He did his duty. But that was 35 years ago, and since then, CPIB has handled many more difficult cases. Recently, it's had to handle cases with international links. For example, the case of the football match fixer, Eric Ding. CPIB received a tip-off from an Asian Football Federation Cup match, about an Asian Football Federation Cup match. And very quickly, within hours, Eric Ding's involvement came to light. And within 2 days, CPIB secured confessions from co-conspirators, thwarted the match-fixing attempt, and eventually secured a conviction of Eric Ding. So because CPIB has been effective, they have been a good deterrent. Anyone thinking of straying will think twice, because he knows he will most probably get caught. And when he gets caught, he knows that he'll be held fully accountable under the law, regardless of rank, background, connection, or how much embarrassment he would cause. We will keep strengthening the CPIB. We are reviewing the Prevention of Corruption Act, and we are going to increase CPIB's manpower as well and capabilities. But fighting corruption is more than a strong CPIB. We must keep all our government systems up to date. Procedures, IT systems, processes. For example, we constantly review our procurement rules, the appropriate approving authorities, and spending limits. And when we need to change and we find loopholes, we will fix them. After the Brompton Bikes case, we've changed our processes. We may still need to buy foldable bikes, but we make sure we do them honestly and there's no hanky-panky involved. We can use, and we will use, technology to detect wrongdoing in an environment which is more complex, which is faster paced. For example, you've got computers, you've got information systems. We can use big data. With big data, you can bring all the information together, scan it, spot irregularities in transactions, and so we can zoom in and make inquiries when something looks doubtful. Why is it the tender amounts are always just below the contract amounts are always just below the limit? So 3 quotes, no tender. Why are the quotes always from similar companies? Why is there a pattern there which pops out, which we should be able to spot? And I think MOF is giving you a presentation later on how they are doing this. Thirdly, when we talk about system, we must also talk about incentives and rewards. And the civil service has to recognize and reward the right behavior. Not just ability and performance, how well you're doing on your job, but also good character and moral stewardship. Therefore, we make sure that our officers are paid properly, paid commensurate with their job responsibilities, and we make sure we insist on high standards and high performance. So if you are not performing, you have to move. If you are performing, you are properly rewarded, and we treat you properly. And this way, by being honest about this, by being direct and doing the correct thing, we avoid the problems of other countries which pay officers unrealistically low wages, resulting in endemic corruption in all levels. And this is one of the difficulties which Chinese have, because it is very hard for them in an environment where people doubt the standing of the public service to raise the pay of the public service and explain that I have to pay people properly so that I will reduce the problem of corruption. They say you stop being corrupt first and then I pay you afterwards. But it's a chicken and egg problem, and let us not get into that chicken and egg situation. The public also plays an important role because they too share the public sector's zero tolerance for corruption. And we can do more to increase public engagement so that more people can do their part. So we set up a one-stop corruption reporting center. We are going to set up such a one-stop corruption reporting center so that people can make complaints discreetly and in a more accessible way. And we're setting up a permanent heritage gallery to educate the public. So as we look forward to the next 50 years, these are things we need to do to strengthen the sense of integrity in the public service, the value of integrity, strong leadership, entrenching the value, and having good systems which will make sure that the values can be put into action. And that can keep Singapore exceptional. Very few other countries can boast of such a clean, zealous, and well-qualified pool of public officers. And this is an enduring competitive advantage for Singapore, and a major reason why we've achieved so much over the last 50 years. People say, what have you got? You've got no gold, you've got no land, you've got no oil. What have you got? I've got my people, I've got my system. And the people are well educated, and the system is not easy to replicate. You can look and see how we do it, but to do it in another country with a different history, with a different culture, not so easy. There are clean countries in the world with different histories, but we have become one of those few countries with such a high reputation, and we have to stay there. A first-rate public service will help us to keep ahead of the pack as we venture into the next chapter of the Singapore story. So Singapore expects and deserves a first-class public service, and an overwhelming majority of you meet and exceed these high expectations every day. As public service officers, you play a vital role in achieving our shared vision and making Singapore a better home for all. So I hope you'll carry the sense of mission with you always. I hope you'll find something useful from this seminar and take it back to your colleagues in all your different organizations and tell them this is important, and the leaders, the ministers, the PM considers this important. And we expect this of every civil servant. And I wish you a meaningful and fulfilling journey in the public service as you put integrity into action. Thank you very much.